one of the things people talk about is luck. And I do believe that people are lucky, and some people are luckier than others. I do believe that. But there's also an expression, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I can tell you 10 instances where I didn't quit when it was 1990, the world was coming down, the debt markets were, everybody, all of my friends and enemies were going bankrupt. I never did. And the times were actually just terrible. And even today, you look at times and you see what happens, and you have to learn. But the word luck is very interesting. But if I didn't work really hard, I probably would not, almost definitely would not be here today. And unless you had me up as a man who at one point was successful, but let's see what a loser looks like. So you have to work hard, because it is true, you can develop luck.
Success is something you attract, not something you pursue. Success is looking for a good place to stay. So instead of going after it, you work on yourself. Personal development.
You can't Google success and you can't Google exposure. You can't Google now one of them things. Matter of fact, go home and Google it. Google success, see if you get it. Google exposure, see if you get it. You have to be exposed to certain things in order for you to know it. And success is hard. If I try to get my millennials to understand, it take a long time to make a lot of money. Daddy, you making money, I'm 61. It take a long time to make a lot of money. You can't just go make money because you got Google. Let me show you something. When you get on an airplane, you ever notice when you walk on an airplane and you walk past first class, everybody in first class got gray hair? You ever notice that? They all a little up in age. They all 50 and up, especially during the week. Them businessmen, they earn the right. You go in the back, it's young people back there. You back there. You got your iPhone out, you got your headsets on. Them grown-ass men up there got their legs crossed, they got a briefcase out. They trying to figure it out. They trying to make this paper. They in front. But you gotta be exposed to get to first class. You gotta be successful to get to first class. That's why they closed that curtain. See, they can't have your ass in back of that plane with that curtain open. You ain't gonna believe what's going on up there. They bringing out a hot washcloth. You can wash up. They passing out menus. Everybody get hot nuts. You get all you want to drink. You ain't got to pay for the headsets. You get to watch the movies free. You get a choice of what you want to eat. They gotta close that curtain. If you was in the back and they left that curtain on, you'd drive them people crazy. Hey, what my nuts? You don't get no nuts. Hey, how come I just got a half a can of Coke? That's all we give you. How come these drinks is $5? He done ordered 3 drinks because he paid for first class. The seats is wide. Your knees can't touch the seat in front of you. It can't. The overhead space is plentiful for everybody. That's why they close the curtain. So what you have to do, you have to expose yourself to things early in life. This is my suggestion. Do whatever you got to do to upgrade to first class.
Life is known as the big if. Harry Truman once said, life is iffy. How true. And here's the big if we're going to consider it tonight. It's possible to do much better at the marketplace if you go to work primarily on yourself. And that's the theme of our seminar tonight. Learning to work primarily on yourself. People have asked me for the last 24 years, how do you develop an above-average income? And the answer is, become an above-average person. Develop an above-average handshake. Some people want to be successful, they don't even work on their handshake. As easy as that would be to start on. They let it slide, they don't understand. Develop an above-average smile. Develop an above-average excitement. Develop an above-average interest in other people. Develop an above-average intensity to win. See, that'll change everything. Probably one of the most frustrating experiences in life is looking for an above-average job with above-average pay without becoming an above-average person. It's called frustration. And Mr. Shoaff gave me probably the greatest clue he gave me when I first met him. He said, Jim, if you want to be wealthy and happy the rest of your life, just learn this lesson well. He said, learn to work harder.
Now, this is how you know you're not living in your gift. If when the alarm clock goes off in the morning and you ain't happy about it, you ain't doing what you want to do. See, you fighting upstream. You going against what God created you for. If your job makes you sick to go to, if you're unhappy with waking up to go to where you got to go, it's because you ain't living in your gift. You should, before you die, you should do what God created you to do. You really should, man. Now, that don't necessarily mean you got to quit your job. Some people are born to be teachers, caregivers, nurses, babysitters. Those are gifts, you know what I mean? If you're living in your gift, you cool. It's just if you ain't. If you fry chicken better than everybody else, you should be somewhere frying chicken. You somebody say, if you do hair better than everybody else, you should be somewhere doing somebody's hair. Those are gifts. Telling jokes was a gift. They're just not just running, jumping. If you paint, you should be painting. If babysitting is what you really do, you should be babysitting. You doing anything. If you fix cars, you work with your hands. You're supposed to be working with your hands. You do anything else, when that alarm clock go off in the morning, you ain't gonna like it. Now, if you waking up, you going down there, they ain't paying you what you want, you hate your coworkers, you down there, your boss has no business being your damn boss. See, that's what messed me up. I never had a boss that I thought should have been in charge of me. That's what was wrong with my ignorant ass. I just didn't see why this was in charge of me. I didn't get to, I really didn't. I just said, this is bull. This is bull. Who put this stupid son in charge of me? But this dude has no business being my boss. I just never thought that anybody should be in charge of me. I always saw myself free. I just want to come to work. This is all I want to do. Before Bishop Jakes said this, he said, before you die, he said, I would hate to die and never do the thing I was born to do. You should look into that before you mess around and check out of here.
You've got to change. Otherwise, it isn't going to change. Before I met Mr. Shoaff, I used to say, I sure hope things will change. Right? That seemed to be my only hope. If it isn't going to change, I'm in serious trouble. And then I discovered it isn't going to change, so I'm in serious trouble.
Now, Albert Einstein had a quote. He said, imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attraction. This is important information. But let me tell you where Albert Einstein got that paraphrase from. He got it out the Bible because it's actually a scripture. But it's a scripture that's never explained to you the right way. When I learned it, it changed my life. Now, it's a scripture that you've all heard. It says faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. All faith is, really, the substance of it is just what you hope for. That's all faith is. It's just real hard hoping. You remember when you was little and you said, I hope I get a bike for Christmas? And you went out there one year and the bike was under the tree? You remember when you said you hope you graduate and you mess around and got a diploma? Didn't you remember when you said you hope you get a job and you mess around and you got a job? Huh? At one point in time, the older you get, this got to start clicking in. That faith is really the substance of things hoped for. That if you hope hard enough, one day you ought to get smart and turn all that hoping into belief. And what is belief? Nothing but faith. And what is faith? Faith is a belief in things that you cannot see. When you ain't see no way you was gonna get a job, he got you one, didn't he? When you ain't see no way you was gonna get that bike, he got you one, didn't he? When you ain't think you was gonna graduate, you graduated, didn't you? That's because God was turning your hopes into faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for.
Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
When I got into comedy at 27, I had a turn back moment, man. It was the day I was gonna quit. Because I had enough, man. I was living in this car for 3 years, man. I ain't got no money. And I was gonna call my mom and dad and ask them, could I come home and just stay in the attic for about 4 months till I find a job. My father told me, you can't come back home. Once you leave my daddy's house, you got to figure it out. So I knew it was gonna be hard, but they had put an answering machine in the attic for me. You know, back in the day, you had an answering machine, you could call it, punch a code in, and you could hear your messages. And so I was bathing in a hotel in Pensacola, Florida. And the way I used to bathe was, I used to go to hotels that had those bathroom doors that went floor to ceiling. I would go to real fancy, like Ritz-Carltons and stuff like that, because they had linen towels wrapped up in a basket. And I would take a bunch of them and run hot water on them, and I'd take them in the stall and shut the door, and I'd take my bag and I'd soap up. Then I would wait till the coast was clear, and I'd run out and get a bunch of more rags and soak them up and come out and wipe it off. Then I'd stand there and dry, put my clothes back on. That's how I bathed every other day, man. And so I was in there one time, and they had a convention in town. And when I got all the stuff, I soaped up. This convention let out, and men was just coming in the bathroom, and I couldn't go out. So I couldn't get the soap off. So I let the toilet seat down, and I'm sitting there, man. I just started crying. I said, man, I can't take this no more. I'm finna quit. I'm gonna go call my daddy, just ask him, can I come home, man? I can't do this no more. So before I called him, I called the answer machine, and I got a message. And it said, Steve Harvey, this is Chuck Sutton from Showtime at the Apollo. We saw a tape of you. If you would come to New York Sunday night, this was a Thursday, come to Sunday night, we're gonna put you on TV, Showtime at the Apollo. Put me on TV, that was my dream. But I had a problem. I had $25, and I couldn't get to New York. How was I gonna get to New York with $25? So I said, man, I went back in my car and I'm crying again. I said, man, God, I finally get a shot to get on TV and then I can't even go. I said, how could you do this to me? You know, I'm 30-something now, man. I've been waiting my whole life and you get me here? So I said, man, let me call this machine back and just see if he said this Sunday. And I called it back, and it said, Steve, this is Chuck Sutton from Showtime at the Apollo. We saw a tape. We have an opening for you Sunday. If you could get here, give me a call, let me know. We'd love to put you on TV. I said, so I got ready to hang up, and I heard, boop, you have another message. And I punched in the code, and the message said, Steve Harvey, this is Tom Sobel from the Comedy Caravan. I don't know where you are now, but I have a gig available for you in Jacksonville, Florida, to pay you $150 Friday night. If you can make the gig, let me know. I'm in Pensacola. So I called Tom Sobel. He sends me to this gig to make $150. I go the next night, I make $150, but I was so funny, the club owner said, if you stay the next night, I'll pay you another $150. I got $300. I called Chuck Sutton back at the Apollo and said, hey man, I just got this message. If you still got room for me in New York, I'll do it. He said, yeah, come on. So I went to Eastern Airlines, bought a round trip ticket for $99 from Jacksonville, Florida to New York, performed on Showtime at the Apollo, wrote the joke that made me famous. Mike Tyson hit this fighter, Mitch Green, in the eye, and his eye started talking. And I wrote that on the way to New York. Got a standing ovation on the Apollo. I have been on television ever since that night right there. If you're a person where all your friends come to you with their problems, that's because they see something in you. You're more balanced and stable. But you gotta remember this old saying. If you're the smartest person in your group, you need a new group.
I used to wonder why two people could work for the same company, one make twice as much money. Now see, that used to puzzle me. And maybe they were the same age, graduated from the same school, live in the same community, work for the same company, with the same products and the same services. They've got the same traffic, the same problems, and one makes $1,000 a month, the other one makes $2,000 a month. Now that was my puzzling question. Why would this long list be the same and the money twice as much? I asked, what's the difference between $1,000 a month and $2,000 a month? And I don't mean $1,000 a month, right? I could figure that out. But what makes the difference? Why would one person do twice as well, 3 times as well? Speaking economically. Now, I know there's more than one way to do well. I understand that. But in this little narrow area called compensation, what's the difference? Well, back then, with my faulty thinking, I'm trying to reason it out. I thought, well, maybe time makes some of the difference, right? Some people do better because they have more time. I used to say, Harold ought to be able to do well. He's got a lot of time. If I had all of Harold's time, I could do well. Now, that's got to be dumb, right? Number one, you can't get somebody else's time. A guy says to me one time, he says, you know, if I had some extra time, I could make some extra money. I said, then forget it. There isn't any extra time. Hey, when the clock strikes 12 midnight, that about wraps it up, right? I mean, you can look around the gongs there for a little more, but it's over. You say to the guy, what are you doing? He says, I'm looking for extra time. See, they'll come and take you away, right? There isn't any more time. Now, if you can't get more time, which you can't, what could you get more of that would make a difference in economic results? And here's the key word. Make it a part of your notes. We're going to consider it tonight. The word is value. And I have a little phrase for your notes. Value makes the difference in results. Value makes the difference. You can't get more time, but you can create more value. Now, here's the first lesson of economics. Everybody should learn it from the time they're old enough to understand what a dollar means, how to earn one, how to get one, how to keep one, what to do with it. First lesson of economics. We primarily get paid for value. That's lesson one. Bringing value to the marketplace, that's how you get paid. You don't get paid for the time. I know it takes time to bring value to the marketplace, but you get paid for the value, not the time.